Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 11:43. Our next case is Mr. Jeffery McGuire. Mr. McGuire, if you would please give us your full name and DOC number.
Jeffery Reed McGuire, 626-512.
Mr. McGuire, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Jeffery R. McGuire, DOC number 626-512, date of birth April the 9th of 1981. He's a fifth-time felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of April the 15th of 2023. Adjusted good time date of September the 18th of 2023, the full term date of November the 9th of 2030. Is currently serving a 15-year sentence on the charges of distribution of methamphetamines, possession with intent to distribute methamphetamines, and possession of methamphetamines. Is all of that accurate, Mr. McGuire?
Yes, sir.
Mr. McGuire, your case has been assigned to me, so I'll begin our interview process. How old are you, Mr. McGuire?
41.
You'll be 42 in about a week, right?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been in prison on these charges?
Right at 4 years.
Tell me about the charges that put you in here. What was going on with you?
Well, I was pretty heavy into my drug use. I was traveling back and forth across state lines. I was living in Marshall and coming to Shreveport to gamble and use drugs. And I got pulled over, and here I am. I got caught with methamphetamine and also got a distribution charge.
Let's talk about your drug use first. When did you start using drugs?
In my early 20s.
And what did you start using?
Marijuana, methamphetamine, alcohol.
How often were you using?
I'd say pretty often, not on a daily basis, but at least 3 or 4 times a week.
You ever have any treatment on the outside?
I did. This is the first time I've been to a treatment program was when I went to the SHISAP program in Bossier Parish on this incarceration.
So on the outside, you've never had any treatment when you got
Elsewhere.
seek any treatment of any kind?
No, sir. I've attended NAAA meetings on the street when I was court ordered to do so in Texas.
So how did you get started with drugs, and why did you continue to use it?
Just hanging around with the wrong crowd, and I guess wanted to be accepted or to fit in. I guess that's how I began using and just partying a lot, and then partying turned into an addiction. You know.
How about when did you start dealing drugs?
Probably my early 30s. After I got deep into my addiction, it got to a point to where I had to sell drugs just to support my habit and to keep doing what I was doing.
What about your educational background? Tell me a little bit about your education. How far did you go to school on the outside?
I graduated high school in Marshall, Texas, and then I worked at a bank for 4 years before I started using drugs, and I ended up losing my job there.
What did you do at the bank? What kind of work did you do?
I was a commercial teller at the bank, and after I lost my job there, I was in and out of jail for a while, and I went to state jail in Texas, and I got out and I attended cosmetology school. I received my certificate, and I was a hairstylist for a number of years before getting in trouble again for drugs, which I never really stopped doing the whole time I was in school, and I used drugs throughout this whole time, and then I ended up here at David Wade on my first incarceration here. I got out in 2018 on parole, and then I caught this charge, which is a possession charge plus my revocation.
Do we both agree that you're a drug addict?
Yes, sir. I am.
Now, you've been arrested, by my calculation, over 20 times in Texas and Louisiana, mostly property and drug charges. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Most of your arrests related to drugs in some way, either selling or using or getting money to buy more drugs.
Yes, sir. You're right.
But let's talk about if you were to be released, and it looks like you're going to get out, regardless of what we do here today in September. So tell me how you're going to stay sober and stay away from the drug crowd, of both selling drugs as well as using drugs.
Well, like I said, I attended the Steve Hoyle program, and this is really the first time in my life that I've accepted and identified that I am an addict and I have a problem. And I've learned a lot of things to help better manage my addiction. And this time I'm going to actually attend AA meetings and be serious about it in AA meetings and get a sponsor or someone that's good at staying sober. Maybe they can teach me how to do so.
Tell me about Steve Hoyle. What did you learn? I mean, I agree with you. It's a great program. Tell me what you got out of it that you didn't realize before. Some things are pretty obvious. Drugs are bad. They make you do all kinds of crazy things. What did you learn about yourself throughout the Steve Hoyle process?
I learned that even though I seem to like have a victimless crime, I really don't, because like my family's a victim, my friends are victims of my incarceration. I've identified my thinking errors. I've learned cognitive thinking, how to think before I act. I'm drawing a blank right now, I'm sorry. I took Living in Balance, part 1 and 2, moral recognition therapy, mind-altering substances, phase 1 and 2, strengthening families, and I think that's it.
So what are your triggers?
Casinos, nightclubs, negative fear.
Did some of this drug selling involve gambling?
Yes, sir. It absolutely did.
Have you done anything to work towards your gambling addiction?
Other than identifying that it's a problem for me, I haven't. No, sir. I haven't had any kind of, I guess, therapy for that or whatever you call it.
How are we going to make sure that doesn't happen to you?
Well, I'm going to interstate compact to Texas, so this time I'm going to stay in Texas where we don't have any casinos.
Tell me now, you're going to go live with your mother and father in Marshall, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you plan on working in Sherman, Texas. Is that correct? How far are they apart?
Well, it's about 2.5 hours apart. I have a job opportunity there. I'm not sure that that's exactly what I'm going to do yet, but given my release and if there's still an opportunity to go to work there, I'm going to consider it.
Well, how is it you're going to be able? Are you going to drive every day back and forth? Or are you going to stay
no, sir. I plan on moving there if given the opportunity to go to work there.
Sherman, Texas?
Yes, sir.
In Sherman, who would you be living with in Sherman, Texas?
My best friend, Tara Stevens.
How long have you known? Is it Terrell, did you say?
Tara.
How long have you and she known each other?
Our whole lives. We grew up in the same town. We're from the same town.
She involved in any of your drug use or anything like that?
No, sir.
Gordon, what can you tell us about Mr. McGuire?
Well, Mr. Marabella, I've known Jeffrey McGuire for a while. He was here once before, and he got out, like he said, in 2018. And once he got back reincarcerated for the drug charge that he's back on, he bounced around a couple of the smaller parish jails for a little while, and he had written me a couple of letters, and I'd had conversations with his mother a couple of times on the telephone, and you know, he was requesting to come back to David Wade, and I put a condition on him coming back to David Wade. I said he had to complete the substance abuse program at Steve Hall, and of course he wittingly and eagerly participated in that. So I had him transferred to Steve Hall over at the Bossier facility, and he was very successful in that. I've talked to the staff over there, and I followed him while he was in the 9-month program. He did very well there. He completed the substance abuse program. He completed Living in Balance. He took family recovery programs there, the MRT class, and since he's been back at Wade, he got back to David Wade actually in July of last year. And he works as a clerk in the North Security Office for Colonel Tolliver. And I see him just about every day, Mr. Marabella, that I'm here at the prison. And we have conversations on a regular basis. Jeffrey is over 40 years now. He's over 40 years old now. He's a fifth offender. And I think it's finally sunk in with him that he doesn't want to continue to serve time for the rest of his life. And I think this time he is very well prepared to stay sober. He's very employable, very smart, intelligent individual, very capable of maintaining employment and very capable of following the rules and regulations and the laws and things like that. And I think he's really made his mind up this time, Mr. Marabella, to stay out of prison. He doesn't want to become a sixth offender. I think he's done everything that he can to prepare himself, and I really believe, just from knowing this individual, I think he's going to be successful this time. I'd be very surprised if he ends back up in prison after his release from the Department of Corrections on this stamp. I think he's really, I think he's really ready to go, Mr. Marabella. And I'm open to any questions you have about this individual. I know him very well, know his record, and those are my comments, and open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Warden. I certainly do appreciate your comments. Mr. McGuire, when you finished Steve Hall, did they give you a sort of a blueprint to lead your life sober?
Yes, sir. Mainly just getting a sponsor and attending a NAAA group regularly.
That's your plan.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me ask you this. Would you prefer to go live with your parents for a while or go straight to live with, is she your girlfriend or just a friend? How is that going to work out?
She's just a friend. I'd prefer to go to my parents first because I have to get figure out what I'm gonna do about transportation and, getting my feet under me first.
Do you have a possibility of a job there in Marshall?
I don't have any, not at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McGuire. Appreciate your comments. Mr. McGuire, is there anything that you'd like to say to us before we vote?
Yes, I prepared a statement beforehand, and I'm going to read it right now. Let's see. First, I'd like to thank the parole board for granting me a parole hearing, as well as Warden Goodwin for all the help he has given me during my years of incarceration. I would also like to thank my family and friends for their continued love and support they've given me despite all the mistakes I've made and the years lost as a direct result of my bad decisions. I have no one to blame but myself for my actions, which have sent me on a downward spiral of drug addiction and hopelessness, as well as the hurt I've caused my family and friends. At the beginning of this incarceration, I was housed at several of the smaller detention centers. where I was surrounded by unsupervised violence and drug use on a daily basis. My experience at these facilities was a wake-up call, to say the least, and something I never want to experience again. During this time, I wrote Warden Goodwin several letters begging for his help to deliver me from my situation, and thankfully he did. With his assistance, I was transferred to the Steve Hoyle program in Bossier Parish before returning here at DWCC. Not only was I finally safe, I also completed the program and gained a better understanding on my addiction and how better to manage it. For the first time in my life, I can truly say that I have matured and no longer feel the need to socialize or interact with negative peers, which has been one of my biggest downfalls in the past. I've also learned to suppress my addiction by identifying my main thinking errors, which are blame, justify, negative peer group, and instant gratification. In closing, I would like to express that I have blamed and shamed myself more than anyone could understand, but I've also accepted my actions and am truly ready to leave this life behind me in search of a stable, successful, and happy life.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGuire. Mr. McGuire, I've enjoyed our interview. I think you've been very honest with me. You've got a rough criminal history. No question about that. I mean, the drugs have permeated your entire life up until now. You have gone through what I consider to be one of the best programs we have in Steve Hoyle. You asked for that program. You got into that program. You completed that program successfully. You seem to have a really good transition plan. You've taken a lot of responsibility for what you've done. The comments by the warden clearly indicate to me that he is comfortable where you are and what you've done, how you handled yourself while you've been there. Based upon all of those things, fact that you have not had any disciplinary issues while you've been there, my vote would be to grant your parole to Texas. I'd like to see you go live with your parents for a while before you make that move away. I think it's Marshall. I get Marshall and Sherman confused, but I want you to go. I'd like to see you go to your parents' house to be there for a while with special conditions, that you follow all of the outline that Steve Hoyle submitted to you. 3 AA meetings per week. And I want you to get full-time employment. I know you don't have it just yet, but I need you to work on it. And I'd like you to undergo random drug screens. To be my vote, I'm only one of 3. So good luck with this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. I was impressed with what Warden Goodwin had to say about you. The record doesn't really say those things, and I believe everything he says. He believes you're ready, so I concur with him. My vote also is to grant, based on what Warden Goodwin had to say about you. You have a good plan too. I would add to Mr. Marabella's special conditions that you stay out of Louisiana, stay away from any casino.
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Thank you. Rochelle?
Mr. McGuire, I think you're ready. The positive remarks by Warden Goodwin impressed me to no end. He thinks you're ready. I think you had damage. You're a graduate of the Steve Hall program. You took advantage of that program and armed yourself with the ammunition that you need to make it this time. I agree with both of my colleagues. I'm going to vote to release you and grant your early release to the state of Texas.
Well, you've got 3 votes. Well, good luck to you, sir. You'll be
Thank
going to Texas. Hope you get a job, and I hope you stay clean. Your conditions are outlined, one of which is added by Ms. Renata, that you stay out of Louisiana and stay away from the casinos.
Thank you all.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Warden.